I chose to do my research inquiry on physical exercise as the best protective factor in cognitive aging. A little personal background. This topic is a topic that I'm personally passionate about due to some certain life events. I was very close to my grandmother, and watching her mental decline towards the end of her life was heartbreaking. And I'm sure that I'm not alone in that experience. Regardless, it's something I'm very interested in. Protective factors in cognitive aging, um, in particular physical exercise. But you know, certain life events are what pushed me into my major, which is psychology. But so we're going to examine physical exercise as a protective factor in cognitive aging. In this presentation, I'm going to go into a brief overview of what a protective factor is and what are the most researched ones. My claim is that physical exercise is the most effective of those factors, those interventions rather, and I will build upon that by going over its effects on blood flow, neuroplasticity, and inflammation. I will also discuss how these things benefit cognitive aging. We'll also discuss claims about other protective factors. Finally, I'll talk about some problems with those claims. Just a little fact. A person born today will live to be 82 years old. This is according to the United States Census Bureau. This is compared to 1923, when the life expectancy for a woman was 50 years old. So, based on that fact, it can be ascertained that people are living a lot longer today than in years past. It's a great thing, but it comes with its own set of complications. The older you get, the higher the likelihood of suffering from some form of cognitive decline. As you age, the possibility of having a neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer's or dementia increases exponentially. Luckily, science has identified various enrichment techniques that improve cognitive ability. I believe that physical exercise is chief among those techniques. To understand these factors and review their efficacy, it's first important to identify what a protective factor even is. Very simply, it's any behavior or action that lessens age-related cognitive decline. Again, the ones I will touch on today are physical exercise, cognitive training, and meditation. Also, to clarify what cognitive decline is, it's when mental faculties deteriorate slowly as a result of age. It's a natural consequence of age, rather. So why is this important? I'm sure that you've seen numerous stories in the media about ways and efforts to combat aging. The reason for this is that any age-related decline decreases the quality of life, especially cognitive decline. Further, even if you don't suffer from cognitive decline or know someone that does, you're still affected. According to a 2022 paper by the National Institute of Health, the United States government spent $500 billion to treat and care for those suffering from cognitive decline. Finally, and possibly most importantly, if we live long enough, we will experience cognitive decline. So, what forms do these interventions take? Physical exercise is pretty self-explanatory. It could be weightlifting, aerobic exercise, yoga, playing sports, or even dancing. Anything that increases the heart rate through movement, really. Cognitive training sounds technical, and it can be, but really, it's any task that makes use of your memory, makes you solve problems, or even do computations, or in addition to that, learning new skills. This can take the form of a brain training app or even a crossword puzzle or Sudoku. Finally, meditation is also a new and interesting protective factor that's been more researched in recent years. Mindfulness meditation is using various techniques to bring your attention to the present. Loving kindness is a form of meditation that brings your attention towards empathy and goodwill towards others, and transcendental meditation is typically where a person chants a mantra or makes a repetitive sound to enter a state of deep relaxation. Now to the start of the show, physical exercise. Physical exercise increases blood flow by way of making your heart beat rapidly. According to a 2011 study by Sabo et al., increased blood flow leads to an increase in neuroprotective proteins, also known as peptides. One of these is brain neurotrophic factor, which is crucial for the growth and longevity of neurons. Neurons are important because they are the basis for all communication within the brain. Also, increased blood flow has been linked to a heightened volume of gray matter in your brain. About 40% of the brain is made of gray matter. Gray matter is crucial for cognitive performance, and a low volume of gray matter decreases information processing. According to Erickson et al. In 2010, Having a high volume of gray matter is very important. It makes your neurons more effective and sends messages more efficiently. Also, gray matter volume naturally declines as a consequence of aging, so increasing it via exercise will build a reserve, which you can draw on. The final benefit of increased blood flow is that it saturates the brain with glucose and other nutrients. Glucose is essentially food for your cells. The more restricted blood flow to your brain, the more starved for energies those cells will be, your brain cells. I will now discuss the link between neuroplasticity and physical exercise. Simply, neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to reorganize and form new neural pathways. Environmental factors and injury can cause cells to be injured, which necessitates new pathways to be created. Without the repairs from neuroplasticity, underlying issues can't get better, and cognitive decline gets markedly worse. Luckily, by undertaking exercise, a process called neurogenesis occurs. This is very simply the creation of new neurons in the brain. Also, exercise helps maintain stasis in neurochemicals. An interesting study was undertaken in 2006 by Colcomb et al. In this study, they had participants engage in aerobic activity. The researchers found that participation in an aerobic exercise program increased volume in both gray and white matter, primarily located in prefrontal and temporal cortices, those same regions that are often reported to show substantial age-related deterioration. Wrapping up physical exercise, we will talk about inflammation and oxidative stress. Inflammation greatly increases the risk of Alzheimer's and dementia and inhibits neural messaging. Perhaps the most frightening is the link between inflammation and misfolded proteins, according to a 2020 study by Livingston et al. These proteins are also known as prions, and exogenously, or things produced outside the body, introduced prions are the cause of mad cow disease and Kuru. Exercise relieves inflammation and reduces oxidative stress. A very simple analogy for oxidative stress is rust forming on iron. That's oxidation. Oxidation in the brain damages fats, which your brain is almost entirely made of, and also damages protein and DNA. Physical exercise releases cytokines, which are proteins that repair damaged cells. It also reduces insulin resistance, which has the benefit of lowering neuroinflammation. Finally, exercise releases enzymes that fight oxidation. Briefly, we'll discuss other interventions. As you'll see, there's quite a bit of overlap in what these interventions do. I discussed cognitive training earlier. Cognitive training has also been shown to build cognitive reserve, increase neuroplasticity, and increase cognitive performance. Meditation has been shown to reduce stress, which in turn fights inflammation. It also increases oxygen levels in the brain. Finally, Gard et al. In 2010 found promising results for meditation. According to them, meditation increases attention and memory performance. It also improves sleep, which elicits several responses from the brain. So what is the best intervention? I believe that it is physical exercise. Now, this is due to physical exercise creating multiple pathways for defending against cognitive decline. Many other interventions only focus on decreasing inflammation or increasing brain volume. Physical exercise does it all. Exercise is also the most researched. There's a large body of work describing its benefits. Also, it's accessible. You don't have to buy, download, or read anything. Just move. Further, there have been problems with studies on cognitive training. In 2008, Herzog et al. Found that cognitive training was task-specific and often temporary. This confirms what Reebok et al. Found in 2008. Also, many of the studies I researched were longitudinal, which a longitudinal study takes place over many years. That brings into question survivorship bias. Did the participants who remained at the end of the study possess qualities that made them less likely to suffer from decline, or a confounding variable, if you will? Next, there are a few problems with studies on meditation. One of them is the lack of studies due to how new this area of study is. Also, in the studies that there is a lack of cohesion among techniques. Earlier, I listed 3 meditation techniques, and without some sort of controlling factor amongst them all, it's hard to gain concrete proof of meditation's efficacy. Also, I mentioned meditation improving sleep quality. Due to that, you can't necessarily attribute benefits directly to meditation. perhaps in a back, you can possibly do it in some sort of back channel way. And finally, self-report bias, which is a problem for most, if not all, studies that involve humans. It requires participants to be honest, and be honest whether they engage in the treatment and how strictly they adhere to it. So, in summary, age-related cognitive decline is certainly a hot topic in psychology and science at large. The decline has monetary costs, yes, but also an emotional realm. Everyone will be touched by cognitive decline, whether it's yourself or a loved one. That's why we must forge ahead and continue our research efforts. Age and change are constant. We must strive to promote all interventions to improve outcomes, enhance mental acuity, and increase the quality of life for the elderly.